The crystal called me an F-Rank Innkeeper, and the entire hall went silent. Not impressed silent, the other kind. The kind where 300 people all looked at me and thought, well, at least I am not that guy. A boy before me had awakened A-Rank Flame Knight. Fire had burst around his shoulders. People cheered. A girl after him received B-Rank Storm Archer. The ceiling cracked from the wind around her bow. I received one clean towel. It appeared in my hands with a tiny golden sparkle. The towel was soft. I will give it that. Auditor Peck stood behind the profession crystal. He was a large white goose wearing brass spectacles and a dark green sash. He looked at the towel, then he looked at me. F-Rank Innkeeper, he announced. Someone laughed. A blue panel appeared in front of my eyes.
F-Rank Innkeeper.
Starter skill. Welcome effect. Makes one guest feel 10% more comfortable. Starter item. One clean towel. I read it twice. It did not become better. Next, Peck said. Wait. The goose narrowed his eyes. You have already received the towel. I noticed. I am holding it. A few people laughed again. I ignored them and pointed at the paper beside the crystal. Every drafted adult receives a profession and a matching property. Correct? Peck's left wing stopped halfway toward the next form. Correct. What property comes with Innkeeper? The hall became quieter. Most people were watching the next fighter now. Peck reached into his iron document case and pulled out a folder. Dust came off it. That was not a good sign. Parcel 404, he said. A former road inn outside Bramblecross. The roof is partly missing. How partly? Yes. I stared at him. He pushed the folder closer with his beak. The west wall may fall before sunset. The well is dry. The kitchen has a mushroom problem. The road is officially closed. Why? Peck looked over both shoulders. Geese do not have shoulders, but he still managed it. The road has become hungry. That should have been the moment I refused. Instead, I saw a different line on the property form. Already recognized as a legal inn. Does that mean the building already counts as an inn? I asked. Legally, yes. Physically, I would not lean on it. I accept. Peck blinked. You did hear the part about the hungry road? I did. And the wall? Yes. I have managed a community center kitchen after a children's birthday party. Mushrooms do not scare me. That was true. In my old life, I had managed a neighborhood center. I had broken up fights, repaired toilets, fed 50 people with food meant for 12, and once removed a raccoon from a dance class without stopping the music. Then I died while pushing 2 children away from a runaway parade float shaped like a giant inflatable duck. The duck survived. I did not. Now I was alive again in a world where a goose handled real estate and roads could get hungry. Honestly, it was not the strangest week of my life. Peck stamped the form. The sound rang through the hall. Parcel 404 now belongs to Rowan Hart, he said. Your 3 copper starting money is inside the folder. 3? Do not spend it all on towels. I tucked my warm towel under one arm, took the folder, and left before the building could die without me. Parcel 404 stood 2 hours outside Bramblecross. I knew it was mine because every other building had walls. The inn leaned beside the road like it was tired of being a building. Half the roof had collapsed. One window faced the ground. The sign above the door said, "The crew eat here H," because several letters were missing. A wooden outhouse stood behind it with a small flag on top. The flag said, "Free Republic." The front door was locked. I used the brass property key Peck had given me. The door opened into a dusty common room. I stepped through. Then the same front door closed behind me. I turned around and opened it again. It opened into the common room. I was still inside. I closed it, walked across the room, opened it from the other side. Common room again. Fine, I told the door. You are confused. I understand.
Threshold recognized. F-Rank Innkeeper. Full functions available. House status empty. Guest skill slots 0. Hearth points 0. Current needs
1. Roof. 2. Water. 3. 1 guest. The panel was simple. I like simple. Then another line appeared over a broken chair.
Need glimpse activated.
Need 1 leg. I looked at the chair. Yes, I had worked that out. A second label appeared over the fireplace. Need firewood. A third appeared over the ceiling. Need most of a roof. I walked through the inn. The system showed a short need above almost everything. Pantry, food, bedroom, bed, well bucket, rope, floor, mercy. The kitchen door shook. I opened it carefully. 5 purple mushrooms turned toward me. They had faces. One hissed. I closed the door. Need less mushrooms. Agreed. I had 3 copper, 1 towel, a confused door, and about 3 hours before sunset. So I did what I had always done. I chose the smallest problem that mattered. 1 dry corner, 1 fire, 1 working entrance. I dragged loose boards from the collapsed upper floor and laid them over the largest holes in the common room ceiling. I moved a table beneath them for support. I found a rusty axe in the stable and cut dead branches from behind the inn. I filled a cracked kettle with the last rainwater from a barrel. When I lit the fireplace, the blue panel flashed.
Basic hospitality action completed.
Warmth created. No guest received it. Reward, none. That feels personal. The fire popped. The front door rattled in the wind. I walked over and placed my palm against it. House rule, I said. No one may draw a weapon in the common room. Golden letters burned into the wood.
House rule accepted.
Strength, very weak. A person who accepts shelter accepts the rule. The house may warn violators. It cannot stop them yet. Useful, not strong, but useful. Then the system created 1 cup of steaming tea on the table.
Welcome. Used on self.
Cost, 1 copper. I checked my pocket. 2 copper remained. You charged me for my own tea? The inn did not answer. I drank it anyway. It was excellent. Outside, something howled. Not a normal wolf. This sound was deeper. It ended with a metal clink. Another howl answered from farther down the road. Then I heard a woman shout. I ran to the front door and pulled it open. This time it showed the road. A woman in broken silver armor staggered toward the inn. She was tall, with long silver white hair darkened by blood and rain. A red layer of hair showed underneath when the wind lifted it. She carried a spear in one hand and pressed the other against her left ribs. 3 huge hounds moved through the ditch behind her. Each was the size of a horse. Iron plates covered their heads and shoulders. Brass tags hung from their collars. 2 men followed on the road. They wore burgundy coats and carried hooked poles. Stop, one shouted. That fugitive belongs to Roadmaster Vask. The woman reached the bottom step and nearly fell. Can he stand? I asked. Badly. Can you enter? She looked at the inn, then at me. Does this place have real shelter magic? Legally, yes. Physically, we are still discussing it. A hound leaped over the ditch. The woman raised her spear, but her arm shook. I held out my hand. My name is Rowan. I am the innkeeper. I offer you shelter. House rule? No drawn weapon in the common room. Do you accept? Her amber eyes locked on mine. You are asking me to put away my spear while those things eat us? Only after we get inside. Another howl shook the road. She gave one sharp nod. I accept. Golden light snapped around her boots.
Guest check-in complete.
Name, Sarah Rook. Immediate need, safety. Primary skill detected, momentum control.
Guest skill slot unlocked 1.
Borrow skill?
Yes.
Power struck my body like a second heartbeat. I suddenly felt every movement around me. The rain falling, the woman swaying, the hound charging. Each motion carried force. The skill let me push that force sideways, but only a little. I had no time to practice. The lead hound jumped. I grabbed the broken in sign from beside the step and raised it like a shield. Its jaws closed through the wood. The impact threw me backward. Teeth punched through the sign and sank into my left forearm. Pain flashed white. The hound shook its head. My feet slid through the mud. I almost screamed. Then I felt the force of its next pull. Not the animal, the movement. Momentum control told me where it was going. I pushed sideways. The skill answered. Golden lines ran down my arm. The hound own leap bent to the right. Its body flew past me and smashed headfirst into the broken milestone. Bone cracked. The iron plate on its jaw folded inward. The beast hit the road and did not rise. I stared for half a second. I had not become stronger. I had stolen the direction of its strength. The other 2 hounds slowed. The men in burgundy coats did not. You attacked licensed toll animals, one shouted. Do they count as service animals? I asked. He looked confused. That was enough. I caught Sarah around the waist. She was heavier than she looked, because armor was mostly metal and bad choices. Door, I said. The front door swung wide. The handlers ran toward us. One raised his hooked pole. Sarah twisted in my grip and kicked the bottom of the inn sign. Left, she said through clenched teeth. I felt the pole's motion. I used her skill again. The weapon missed my head and buried itself in the doorframe. The door slammed shut on the shaft. The handler lost his grip. I pulled Sarah over the threshold. The moment both of us entered, golden letters flared across the common room walls.
Guest safe inside threshold. Welcome complete.
Hearth points gained 10. The door locked itself. Outside, the handlers pounded on it. By order of Roadmaster Oren, open this property. The house gave a small polite chime.
House rule notice.
No drawn weapon in the common room. One of the men tried the handle. The door opened inward just enough to show his face. Do you accept the house rule? I asked. No. The door shut. I liked the door more now. Sarah slid to the floor. Blood ran between her fingers. I released momentum control when the danger ended. The borrowed sense left my body so quickly that my knees almost gave out. I looked at my arm. 4 deep holes leaked blood down my hand. Sarah looked at them too. You are an idiot, she said. Probably. You had no armor. I had a sign. The sign says here H. It did its best. Her mouth moved. It took me a moment to realize she was trying not to laugh. I used the clean towel. So much for my starter item. I helped her onto the least broken table. Then I found an old first aid box behind the bar. Most of it had turned to dust, but there was clean cloth, strong alcohol, a needle, and thread. I need to see the wound, I said. Her hand tightened around the spear. You told me no drawn weapons. It is still sheathed. It is a spear. Fine. No pointed arguments in the common room. She watched me for another moment. Then she unfastened the left side of her armor. The metal dropped away. A deep cut ran along her ribs, crossing an older spear scar. Her shirt was stuck to the wound. I need to cut the cloth, I said. I worked slowly. My own arm throbbed, but hers was worse. I cleaned the cut. She did not make a sound. She only watched my hands. Her body was strong. Not pretty in a delicate way. Strong in the way of a bridge that had survived storms. Scars crossed her side and shoulder. Each one looked earned. Your hands are steady, she said. I used to patch up children after sports clubs. What is a sports club? A place where young people chase balls and adults argue about rules. So, military training. Almost exactly. I stitched the wound. Then she cleaned my arm and wrapped it with the last dry cloth. When we finished, the blue panel appeared again.
Guest condition improved.
Hearth points gained, 20. Current Hearth points, 30. Available upgrades, repair roof section, 15. Create water barrel, 10. Create simple guest bed, 10. Strengthen front door, 20. I laughed. Sarah's hand moved toward her spear. What? My skill gives me points when I help a guest. And I can spend them on the inn. She looked up at the ceiling. Rainwater dripped onto her shoulder. Spend them. I selected repair roof section. Golden light ran up the walls. Boards lifted from the floor by themselves. Nails pulled free and flew into place. The largest hole above the common room closed in 10 seconds. Sarah stared. I selected create water barrel. A full wooden barrel appeared beside the kitchen door. 25 points gone. 5 remained. The room was still ugly, but it was dry. We had water. Helping them gave me points. Points improved the inn. The better the inn became, the more guests I could help. My F-rank skill was not weak, it was hungry. Just in a much friendlier way than the road. The men outside stayed until dark. They shouted laws at the door. The door answered by showing them the pantry whenever they tried to enter without accepting the rule. At one point, one handler stepped through and landed face first in a sack of old flour. The kitchen mushrooms attacked him. He left quickly. I did not count that as one of my victories. It belonged to the mushrooms. Sarah slept beside the fire, with her spear across her knees. I sat near the door and watched the road through a crack in the shutters. Sarah opened her eyes. I know. I mean it. The door is not locked from me inside. You have no food for the road. I have very accurate directions. She looked at my wrapped arm. You want me to stay because your skill copies mine? Yes. There was no reason to lie. The blue panel was still floating beside her. I can use momentum control while you are checked in, I said. If you sleep here for 7 nights, the inn may learn a weaker version forever. You lose nothing. And you become stronger. Much stronger. That answer seemed to please her more than a speech would have. I need 7 days to heal, she said. During those 7 days, I guard the inn. You feed me when food exists. I teach you how not to block teeth with a sign. The sign worked. The sign is now 2 smaller signs. Fair point. She held out her hand. One rule, if the inn ever lets you carry my skill outside, ask me first.
Resident trial started.
7 nights until momentum control may become a permanent house skill. I read the message twice. This time, it became better. A guest gave me a skill. A repeat guest could make it permanent. I did not need years of training. I needed useful guests and enough rooms to keep their skills available. By sunrise, I had a plan. Step 1, keep the building standing. Step 2, find food. Step 3, avoid being eaten by the road. It was not a grand plan. Grand plans are usually small plans wearing expensive coats. The west wall groaned during breakfast. Breakfast was hot water with 2 old herbs I found in a jar. Sarah drank it without complaint, which told me more about her past than any speech could. The wall groaned again. A deep voice answered from outside. That sound means you have 40 minutes. A broad dwarf stood in the doorway. He had deep brown skin, a shaved head, and a copper beard braided with small brass rings. A heavy tool chest hung from one hand. He looked at the golden house rule on the door. No drawn weapon, he read. I have 3 hammers. Do they count? Only if you threaten someone with them. I threaten walls. Then come in.
Guest check-in available.
Name, Bram Tallow. Immediate need, paid work. Primary skill detected, stone listening. I smiled. What? Bram asked. Nothing. Would you like to check in? I am here to declare the building unsafe. You can do that as a guest. No. The skill panel vanished. I looked at him, he looked at me. Fine, I said. Business first. He walked through the inn, tapping walls with a small hammer. Each tap made him close his pale blue eyes. Sarah followed with her spear. I followed with my need labels. The floor needed mercy. The stairs needed 4 new steps. The west wall needed 3 braces and a miracle. Bram reached the center of the common room and pressed one palm to a support post. Everyone, outside, he said. The upper floor is hanging on 3 cracked beams. One more hard shake, and it comes down. The ceiling creaked. We went outside. 30 seconds later, part of the upper floor dropped into the common room. Dust burst through the windows. Sarah folded her arms. You were going to invite travelers here. I was going to repair it first. With what money? Future money. That is not money. Bram opened his folder. Parcel 404 is officially unsafe. The inspection fee is 2 copper. I had 2 copper left. I paid him. He blinked. You were paying me for bad news? You did the work. The work destroyed your inn. The inn was already destroyed. You told me which part would happen next. He looked at the coins in his palm. Then he looked back at the building. The foundation is strange, he said. Bad strange? Stubborn strange. Can it be saved? Not all of it. 1 room? Bram scratched his beard. 1 room, maybe. How? Remove the dead weight above it. Reuse the beams below. Brace the chimney. Stop pretending the west wall belongs to the same building. I pointed toward the common room. Would you like a warm drink while we discuss the job? He sighed. I accept 1 drink.
Guest check-in complete.
Guest skill slot available. Borrow stone listening? I selected yes. The inn changed. Not with my eyes, with my ears. Every beam hummed. The floor whispered. Cracks clicked against each other. I could hear weight moving through the building like water through pipes. I touched the nearest post. A clear line appeared in my mind. This post carried too much. That beam carried nothing. The west wall was not helping. It was leaning on the rest of the inn like a drunk uncle at a wedding. Take down the upper floor above the common room, I said. Use the long beams here and here. Brace this post first. Bram's eyes narrowed. You can hear it. For as long as you are checked in. What did you do? Innkeeper skill. That is not an innkeeper skill. Bram looked at Sarah. She nodded once. He borrowed mine yesterday. Bram slowly set down his tool chest. Checkout time? Whenever you want. Payment? I have no copper. I noticed. I can offer a room, a workshop corner, and half the money from every repair job you complete here. Bram stared at the inn. Then he stared at the hole where the upper floor had been. 1 room, he said. I save 1 room. Then I decide. Deal. We worked for 6 hours. I used stone listening again and again. Every time I touched a beam, the skill told me what it carried. Bram showed me where to cut. Sarah carried the heavy pieces until her wound pulled. Sit, I told her. No. A support post made a sharp cracking sound inside my borrowed skill. Sit, Lancer. She sat. We tore down the dead upper floor. I found the strong beams with stone listening. Bram fitted them under the common room. When one brace sat crooked, the wall hummed like an angry bee until I fixed it. At sunset, the room stood straight. Not beautiful, straight.
Guest helped with paid work.
Hearth points gained, 25.
Stone listening used successfully, 12 times.
Skill control improved. I spent 10 points on 2 beds, 10 on a stove, and 5 on clean window glass. Golden light filled the room. 2 beds unfolded from the wall. A black stove rose in the kitchen. The window repaired itself with one bright flash. Bram walked to the front door. He opened it. Then he looked back at the straight room. The foundation is stubborn, he said. So are you. That is why I understand it. He closed the door again. I will stay 7 nights. I want to see what your skill does to a real workshop.
Resident trial started.
7 nights, until stone listening may become a permanent house skill. Sarah smiled at me. I smiled at the system. The next morning, a woman fell out of my pantry. She arrived upside down. First came 2 boots, then brown trousers, then a short teal-black head of hair, then 6 letters, a silver tea tray, and 1 additional boot that did not belong to her. She hit the floor with a grunt. The kitchen mushrooms rushed her. I was using stone listening at the time, so I heard them moving under the floorboards. I switched to Sarah's momentum control. The system made the change instantly. Active guest skill, momentum control. I kicked a flour sack into the air and bent its motion sideways. It burst over the mushrooms. They stopped. The mushrooms screamed and retreated under the stove. The upside-down woman raised one hand. Before anyone kills me, I have mail. You are in my pantry, I said. Yes. With someone else's boot. She looked at it. That explains why my left foot felt uncertain. She rolled upright. She had warm brown skin, violet eyes, pointed ears, and the quick smile of someone who believed speed could solve most problems. Heavy pounding came from the pantry wall. Lyra Bell, a man shouted from somewhere that was not behind the wall. By authority of the courier dead office, remain where you are. The woman stood. I would love to, but I do not know where I am.
Guest check-in available.
Name, Lyra Bell. Immediate need, shelter from debt collectors. Primary skill detected, doorstep. Do you accept shelter under the house rules? I asked. What are the rules? No drawn weapons in the common room. Pay what was agreed. No person may be seized or sold under this roof without proof and a hearing. That third one is very attractive. Do you accept? I accept everything except bad soup. Golden light wrapped around her.
Guest check-in complete.
Guest skill detected. Doorstep. I selected it. The world became full of doors. The pantry door, the kitchen door, the front door, the 2 bedroom doors. I could feel the short distance between them. The skill let me fold one doorway toward another. A debt collector burst through the pantry wall. Not through the door, through the wall. He wore a black coat and held a stamped chain. A second collector followed. You have damaged my pantry, I said. Lyra Bell owes 28 copper, the first man said. We are taking her and her possessions. Lyra lifted the extra boot. This is not mine. Then we are taking that too. Both men crossed the golden threshold line between pantry and kitchen. Do you accept the house rules? I asked. No, the first collector said. Then leave. Sarah's spear moved. I changed skills. Active guest skill. Momentum control. I pushed the chain swing down. It struck the floor. Then I switched back. Active guest skill. Doorstep. I opened the pantry door and folded it to the front door. The first collector stepped forward. He fell through the pantry doorway and out onto the road. The second man stared. I opened the kitchen cupboard. It connected to the front step. He backed away. Would you prefer the cupboard? I asked. He left through the normal door. The whole fight took less than 10 seconds. I had used 2 guest skills 4 times. That mattered more to me than winning. Each switch became easier. Each use felt more natural. My skill was not asking me to become a better swordsman or a wiser leader. It wanted me to use it. So I did. Often. Lyra stared at the cupboard. Can we do that again? Yes. Can you connect it to the bathhouse in Bramblecross? How far? 2 hours. No. Can you connect it to a bakery? No. Your power has limits and has already disappointed me. Bram stepped through the hole in the pantry wall and looked around. Who did this? The dead office, I said. He picked up his hammer. Sarah caught his arm. They left. I can still hear them. Lyra held up both hands. I can explain. Lyra really owed 3 copper. The other 25 copper was fake punishment, added by the dead office. I sent for Peck using Lyra's tea tray. Doorstep Magic needed tea at both ends. This world had invented instant travel. Peck stepped through the pantry an hour later, with a cup balanced on one wing. He read the papers. Real debt, 3 copper, he said. Fake debt, 25 copper. Pantry damage owed to Rowan, 2 copper. Bram nodded. The pantry damage was the only number he cared about. I had no copper left, so I made Lyra a simple offer. Bring 3 paying travelers here. Their room fees cover your real debt. I do not open your private mail or use your doors to spy. Can you afford 3 travelers? She asked. No, that is why I need 3 travelers. She left that afternoon. Sarah watched her disappear down the road. She may not return. Then I lose nothing. The next morning, Lyra returned with 5 travelers. One was a merchant with a cracked wagon wheel. One was a goblin teacher traveling with a box of singing stones. One was an old woman carrying 2 soup cauldrons. The last 2 were brothers who had been walking for 3 days because Oren's toll road had refused their travel papers. Lyra stepped through the door and spread both arms. I brought customers. You promised 3. I became excited.
Repeat guest detected.
Lyra Bell has returned by choice. Doorstep progress toward permanent house skill. 2 of 3 visits. I smiled. Lyra noticed. What did it say? That you need to come back one more time. For what? So the inn can keep a weaker version of your door skill. She looked at the pantry. Will it keep throwing me upside down? Probably. Good. I would hate to lose tradition. 5 travelers were more than our inn could handle. So Lyra returned an hour later with 7 more. I found them on the road, she said. Sarah stood in front of the door. No. The travelers stopped behind Lyra. Rain hammered the road. A black storm rolled over the trees. One family had 2 small children. A young man held his arm against his chest. A merchant kept looking behind him, as if the road might bite. We have 2 beds, Sarah said. 1 safe room. Not enough food, no trained night watch. We have floor space, I said. We have 1 exit. I can make more with Doorstep, while Lyra is checked in. Yes, and if she leaves? Lyra raised a hand. I am standing right here. Sarah ignored her. The old habit rose inside me. Say yes, solve it later. Then I looked at the frightened children. Taking them inside, you make them dry. It might also trap them in a collapsing building. I turned to the group. We can safely take 6 people tonight, I said. The family, the injured man, and 1 more. The rest can shelter in the stable. After Bram checks it, you will still get soup and a watch. The price is 1 copper for inside, half a copper for the stable. Anyone who helps with cooking or bedding gets paid. A merchant in a red cap frowned. You call this an inn? No, the sign is missing letters. A few people laughed. The merchant did not. Fine, he said. I will take the stable. Sarah gave me a small nod. We opened. The old woman with the soup cauldrons was Mara Fen. She took 1 look at my kitchen and announced that I was no longer allowed to cook for paying guests. I can make soup, I said. You can make warm water, remember a vegetable. She checked in. Guest skill detected. Batch cooking. I borrowed it at once. The moment the skill entered my hands, I understood how to cut roots evenly, how much salt 12 people needed, and how to stretch 1 chicken into a full pot without making the broth sad. Mara watched me work. You learn fast. Innkeeper skill. Use it again. I did. Every guest had a small skill. Not all were battle skills, but all were useful. The merchant with the broken wagon wheel had quick count. I used it to price beds, soup, and stable space in seconds. The goblin teacher had clear voice. I used it to explain the house rules over the storm. The injured man had knot grip. I used it to secure oilcloth over the stable roof. The family's mother had calm touch. I used it once on her crying child. The boy stopped shaking and held my finger. Each use made the innkeeper panel flash. Guest helped, 1 hearth point. Guest fed, 2 hearth points. Guest given safe sleeping space, 3 hearth points. By midnight, I had earned 48 points. I spent 10 on straw mattresses, 15 on a stronger chimney, 10 on simple locks, 8 on basic bowls and spoons. The last 5 points repaired the pantry wall. Golden light filled the inn again and again. Every time it faded, something was better. The guests noticed. The red-capped merchant stood beside the new stable locks. You could have fixed the guest room first, he said. I needed your wagon and horses safe. He grunted. It was not praise, but he stopped complaining. The kitchen mushrooms returned, while Mara served the second pot of soup. They burst from under the stove in a purple wave. 1 landed in the soup. Mara screamed as if it had insulted her mother. I switched to momentum control and bent the flying mushrooms away from the tables. Sarah smashed 3 with the flat of her spear. Lyra opened the pantry door beneath another group. They fell through and dropped from a cupboard above Bram's waiting bucket. Bram slammed on the lid. The final mushroom climbed onto a chair and hissed at me. I borrowed clear voice from the goblin teacher. Out, I said. The word hit the room like a bell. The mushroom froze. Then it jumped through the open kitchen window. Everyone stared. That is not how I use the skill. I am an innkeeper. I improve service. The room laughed. The system flashed.
Combined Guest skill use detected.
3 different guest skills used to protect active guests. Bonus Hearth points 15. New Innkeeper feature unlocked. Quick switch. You may switch equipped guest skills without pause inside the inn. That was the upgrade I wanted. Speed. Every checked-in guest added another button to my power panel. Quick switch let me press those buttons almost instantly. The stranger my guests were, the more ridiculous I became. I tested quick switch before anyone could stop me. Batch cooking entered my hands. I cut 12 onions at the same size. Quick count replaced it. I knew we had 31 spoons, 14 bowls, and 1 fork that belonged to nobody. Clear voice replaced that. Who owns the fork? I asked. The question shook dust from the ceiling. No one answered. I switched to not grip when a wet pan slipped from Mara's hand. My fingers caught the handle before the soup hit the floor. Then calm touch helped me settle the frightened child beside the stove. Then, stone listening, warned me that the shelf above us was loose. I switched again, grabbed the shelf, and pushed it back into place. 5 skills in less than a minute. My head spun, my arms shook. The system gave me a small blue warning.
Too many rapid switches.
Side effect? Dizziness. Suggested treatment? Sit down. I sat. Sarah placed a bowl in front of me. Your legendary power has defeated you. It delayed me. You are holding the bowl upside down. I turned it over. Quick switch was powerful. It was also going to need practice. Fortunately, practice meant using more skills. That was the easiest training plan I had ever received. After the danger passed, we made sleeping spaces. The family took one room. Sarah took the second because of her wounds. The injured man slept near the fire. Lyra hung a blanket across the pantry and declared it a private suite. Bram slept in the workshop corner with his hammer under one hand. I slept behind the bar. At some point, a cloak settled over me. Sarah stood over me. Her silver hair was loose. Her armor was gone, replaced by a dark shirt and trousers. Without the metal, she looked less like a soldier and more like a very tired woman who could still throw me through a wall. I released her. Sorry. You sleep behind your own bar, she said. The beds are full. You own the floor too? I am expanding. She pulled the cloak over my shoulders. I will watch for 2 hours, she said. Then Bram. You need sleep if you plan to borrow 6 skills tomorrow. That was a practical argument. I respected practical arguments. Her fingers rested on my shoulder for one quiet second. Wake me if the road moves, I said. The road moves all the time. She nodded and took the chair beside the door. I woke Bram 2 hours later. He complained for 5 full minutes, but he took the watch. The morning started with 12 guests eating soup. It ended with 3 burgundy-coated enforcers walking into my common room. Their leader held up a silver paper. By order of Roadmaster Oren, this property is closed. I borrowed quick count from the red-capped merchant. The skill counted the stamps, dates, and empty spaces on the paper in one blink. 1 real stamp, I said. 2 copied stamps. No signature from Auditor Peck. The enforcer's face tightened. It is still in order. No, it is expensive paper. He drew his sword. Golden letters burned across the floor.
House rule violation.
No drawn weapon in the common room. His boots stuck. His sword arm became heavy. I switched to momentum control. The sword dropped faster than he expected. Its point hit the floor. Sarah stepped on the blade and twisted it out of his hand. The second enforcer grabbed a mace. I switched to doorstep. The front door appeared beside his left foot. Then, I switched back to momentum control and pushed his next step sideways. He fell through the door and rolled into the mud outside. The third man ran for the pantry. I opened the pantry door in front of him and connected it to the stable. He vanished through it. A horse kicked him back. He returned faster than he had entered. Bram caught his coat in the shutters with one hammer stroke. The whole fight lasted 8 seconds. I had used 3 borrowed skills and 1 house rule.
Rapid skill combination complete.
Hearth points gained 12. Current Hearth points 32. The enforcer leader stared at me from the floor. You think an F-Rank Innkeeper can fight Roadmaster Vask? I just fought 3 of his men while holding a soup spoon. I looked at the spoon. Mara took it from me. That is mine. We threw the enforcers outside. The red-capped merchant calmly finished his soup. I would like to book again next week.
Repeat booking recorded. Crooked Hearth popularity 7.
Effect. More travelers will notice the inn. 7 popular, I said. Sarah frowned. That is not a real amount of popular. It is enough to get a number. Lyra picked up the fake closure paper. This was written 3 days ago, she said. Before I owned the inn, I said. She opened her route book. 7 travelers had red marks beside their names. All 7 used this road, she said. None arrived. Bram placed a bent wagon plate on the table. Deep tooth marks covered one side. I repaired 3 wagons with the same marks, he said. Oren called them wheel accidents. Peck arrived through the pantry after I sent for him. He carried 7 metal tags taken from lost luggage. Every tag had Oren's stamp. Oren sent lonely travelers down this road. Oren sold their bags, wagons, and weapons. Lyra went pale. I delivered the route lists, she said. I thought they were toll schedules. Sarah's jaw tightened. Lyra looked at me. What do I do? Help me bring witnesses, I said. Then help me kill the carriage. She nodded at once. I looked at my skill list. Momentum control, stone listening, doorstep, batch cooking, clear voice, quick count, not grip, calm touch. Every guest had given me something. Quick switch let me use it all. My plan had 3 steps. First, bring witnesses and mark a safe path out. Second, trap the coach under the old upper floor. Third, cut Oren away from its controls and kill it with the inn skills. Peck adjusted his spectacles. And Oren? We keep him alive. He knows where the stolen money is, I said. She looked less disappointed. We spent the next 2 days turning the crooked hearth into a trap. I barely used my normal hands. I checked Bram in and borrowed stone listening. I touched every wall, beam, and floorboard. Weak wood buzzed. Strong wood hummed. One support post made a sound like it wanted to resign. Bram painted that post red. When I break this, he said, the old upper floor falls into the stable wall. Will it hit our guests? Not if they follow the red path. Will it hit the monster? It will hit whatever is stupid enough to stand there. Perfect. I switched to quick count and measured the beams, ropes, nails, beds, bowls, and emergency bandages in seconds. I switched to knot grip and tied every trap rope so tightly that Bram needed a knife to check one. I switched to batch cooking and made stew for 30 workers from 2 chickens, 6 onions, and something Mara called a root, but refused to name. I switched to clear voice and explained the escape route once. Everyone heard it. I switched to calm touch when a child started crying at the sight of the rent collapse line. Then I switched back to stone listening because the ceiling had begun making threats. Every use made the system brighter. Lyra checked in and out while carrying supplies. On her 3rd return, the inn chimed.
Repeat. Guest. Milestone complete.
Permanent house skill unlocked. Short door. The crooked hearth may connect 2 doors inside its property. I tested it by opening the pantry door and connecting it to the stable. Bram walked through carrying a beam. He appeared beside Sarah. Useful, he said. From Bram, that was applause. Sarah completed her 7th night next. Permanent house skill unlocked. Momentum hall. Inside the common room, Rowan may redirect the force of 1 charging wagon. Repeated use causes pain. Thin gold lines spread across the common room floor. Sarah threw a practice spear at my chest. I pushed its momentum sideways. The spear turned and buried itself in the wall beside her. You aimed at me, I said. You moved it. What if I had failed? Then the lesson would have been shorter. Bram's 7th night unlocked listening workshop. Now I could hear weak points inside the inn without borrowing his skill. That left my guest skill slot free. I could use momentum hall, short door, stone listening, and 1 borrowed guest skill at the same time. My F-rank profession had become deeply stupid. I meant that with respect. Meals, beds, repairs, and safe work routes earned 73 more hearth points over those 2 days. That gave me 105. I spent all of them. Stronger front door, 20. Emergency wall, 30. Hotter furnace, 25. 3 safe rooms, 30. Golden light flashed through the building. The front door became thick oak. A stone barrier rose beside the stable. The furnace glowed orange. 3 empty rooms appeared upstairs. No sword training, no meditation. The only repair the system refused to finish it was the stable roof, because Bram had turned it into part of the trap. A storm rolled in while Sarah and I fixed it by hand. We stood on a narrow ladder under 1 oilskin sheet. Rain hammered above us. Sarah held a roof board while I drove in the nails. The ladder shifted. She slipped against me. Her wet silver hair brushed my jaw. I caught her around the waist. For 1 second, neither of us moved. She was warm through her soaked shirt. Her amber eyes were close enough for me to see the dark ring around each pupil. You may remove your hand, she said. I removed it. The ladder shifted again. Sarah caught my wrist and put my hand back on her waist. Understood. We finished the board in silence. Then the gutter broke and emptied a full stream of cold water down my back. Sarah laughed so hard the ladder shook. When we climbed down, a burgundy envelope waited on the bar. It offered Sarah a full pardon, her old rank, and her pay if she left before Oren arrived. You can take it, I said. No. That was fast. He sent armored hounds to eat me. She held the paper over the stove. I want to see what eats him.
Resident role confirmed. Security chief.
Momentum hall strengthened. Maximum force increased. Sarah watched my face. You are smiling at the system again. It gave me a stronger floor. Good. I was worried you had become emotional. Lyra returned before sunset with the first witness group. Bram had recruited 6 local workers to help move wagons and reinforce the stable. Mara brought enough soup for 30 people. Peck waited in the pantry with a stack of arrest forms and a cup of tea. We expected Oren to attack after midnight. He came before dinner. The first warning came from a small black and cream travel chest near the front door. I thought one of the witnesses had brought it. Then the chest grew 4 short legs and hissed at the road. Its lid opened sideways. Turquoise eyes blinked above a long, zipper-shaped mouth. Sarah lowered her spear. The small creature ran behind my legs. A child began crying outside. Please, a little voice called through the rain. Open the door. Everyone turned. The voice came from the road. The little mimic shook so hard its brass luggage tag rattled. The child called again. Please, it is dark. I felt no need glimpse through the door. A real guest had to be near the threshold for my skill to show a need. This voice had none. That is not a child, I said. The front wall exploded. Wood, glass, and stone flew across the common room. A black carriage smashed through the inn. It was twice the size of a normal coach. 4 iron wheels unfolded into hooked legs. Its passenger doors opened and showed rows of wet teeth. A long red tongue dragged between them. The painted smile across its front stretched wider. The grinning coach had arrived. Oren Vask sat in a brass driver's chair built into its back. His burgundy coat was perfect despite the rain. Parcel 404 is closed, he announced. A worker near the stable wall screamed. One of the coach's side doors snapped shut around his right arm. The teeth cut through above the elbow. Blood sprayed across the broken wall. The man fell. His arm vanished inside the carriage. Evacuate, I shouted. The goblin teacher had checked in with the witness group. I borrowed his clear voice.
Red path. Move.
People ran toward Bram's painted line. The coach lunged deeper into the common room. The guests came first. Once they were moving, we could kill the monster. I activated short door. The pantry connected to the stable. Lyra opened a second route from the kitchen to the yard. Sarah planted herself in the center of Momentum Hall. Left wheel, she shouted. I switched from clear voice to knot grip, borrowed from the wagon merchant sheltering in the yard. My hands locked around a hanging support rope. I pulled it tight while Bram kicked the brace into place. The coach charged. Momentum Hall lit under my feet. I felt the force of the whole monster. Too much. The skill could bend one charging wagon. This thing was a wagon that had eaten other wagons. Pain tore through both shoulders. The charge shifted half a step. That was enough. The coach missed the fleeing family and smashed into Bram's marked wall. Stone burst inward. One hooked wheel punched through the floor. Now, Bram shouted. He swung his hammer into the red-marked support. The upper floor collapsed. Beams and stone crashed onto the coach's rear axle. The brass driver's chair tilted. Oren grabbed both control levers. You think a house can stop my road? He shouted. No, I said, but this house has doors. I opened the bedroom door beside him. Short door connected it to the pantry floor. Oren's next pull on the lever threw him sideways through the doorway. He dropped into a pile of flour sacks. Peck waited there. The goose attacked his ankle. Oren screamed. Its front doors opened wide. The long tongue snapped around a woman's waist. Sarah drove her spear through the tongue and into the floor. Rowing! I quick switched to momentum control and pushed against the tongue's pull. The woman slid backward. Sarah cut once. The tongue split. Black blood poured across the boards. The coach shrieked with a child's voice. Then it used the worker's voice. Help me! The wounded worker lay beside the bar, white-faced and shaking. Mara pressed cloth against the stump. The sound from the monster made him sob. I wanted to kill it at once, but anger did not tell me how. Stone listening did. I touched the floor. The monster's weight pulsed through the beams. Its rear axle was trapped. Its front wheel was free. A thick control cable ran from Oren's empty chair into the carriage body. Every time it tightened, the coach moved. I opened the bedroom door beside the cable and connected it to the cupboard beside me. The cable appeared through the cupboard. I borrowed knot grip. Both hands locked around the metal line. The coach pulled. I used momentum haul and pushed that pull back at it. The cable stretched. My shoulders burned. The metal snapped with a crack like a broken bell. The coach lost Oren's commands. The little mimic ran from behind my legs, jumped onto the fallen driver's chair, and stole Oren's silver road key. Then the carriage became wild. All 4 doors opened. Teeth tore into the walls. The hooked wheels ripped at the floor. Bram shouted from the workshop. The furnace! The upgraded furnace burned behind him. Its iron mouth glowed orange. The coach's tongue was still pinned through the floor. If we fed the loose end into the furnace, the monster's own pull would drag its jaws into the fire. Lyra, furnace door, I shouted. She opened the kitchen door beside the monster's mouth. I used short door to connect it to the furnace opening. The coach pulled its tongue back. The severed, bleeding length slid through the doorway and into the furnace. Fire climbed it. The monster screamed. Its tongue tightened like a rope in flame. That pull dragged its own front doors toward the furnace doorway. The jaw hit the doorframe. Teeth cracked. More force, Sarah shouted. I activated momentum haul. Every gold line in the common room flared. I pushed the coach's own backward movement forward. My wrist burned. Golden cracks spread under my skin. The monster slammed its face into the doorway again. One jaw split down the middle. Black blood and broken teeth filled the furnace corridor. Still it moved. Still it tried to stand. Sarah ripped her spear free and threw it toward me. I borrowed knot grip and caught the shaft with both hands. Then I used momentum haul on the spear itself. All the force from the coach's last charge rushed into the weapon. I drove it through the cracked front panel and into the pulsing red core behind it. The impact ran up my arms. The core burst. Hot black liquid covered my chest and face. The grinning coach went still. Its wheels folded. Its painted smile stopped moving. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then the ruined ceiling gave a warning crack. Stone listening screamed through my feet. Out, I shouted with clear voice. The remaining guests moved through the stable door. Sarah dragged the wounded worker. Bram carried Mara when she refused to leave the wounded man. Lyra held the short door open until the last child crossed. I turned for the little mimic. The little mimic crawled from the dead coach with Oren's silver road key in its mouth. A ceiling beam fell between us. I used momentum control one more time. The beam changed direction and smashed into the bar. The little mimic jumped into my arms. I ran. The front half of the common room collapsed behind me. We reached the yard as the roof came down. Rain struck my face and washed black blood down my neck. The crooked hearth was still standing, mostly. One wall was gone, half the roof was gone. The bar was crushed. Bram's new workshop roof had fallen into the dead monster. But every guest was outside, alive. The worker had lost an arm. 2 others had broken bones. Sarah's rib wound had opened again. Burns covered my right wrist like gold cracks in glass. We had won. It did not feel clean. Winning did not stop the bleeding. Auditor Peck arrested Oren before I reached the pantry. That was probably wise. Oren stood in the yard with flour in his hair, rain on his perfect coat, and a goose attached to his left trouser leg. This is an illegal attack on a road officer, he shouted. You fed travelers to a monster, stole their property, and lied on official papers. You are under arrest. Oren pointed at me. He destroyed public road property. The grinning coach's dead doors fell open. Dozens of objects spilled into the mud. Travel bags, watches, children's shoes, broken swords. 7 storage tags carrying Oren's stamp. More followed. So many that the road looked like a market after a storm. Lyra knelt beside a blue scarf. One of the missing names had been stitched into the corner. Oren stopped talking. Peck opened his iron case and removed a long arrest form. Would you like to sign? No. Excellent. Refusal witnessed. He stamped the page against Oren's chest. I did not decide Oren's punishment. The families of the missing travelers deserved that voice. Peck took him to Bramblecross in chains. Sarah sent 2 armed witnesses with them. The rest of us stayed with the wounded. A traveling healer named Dr. Venn had been in the stable. He checked in, and I borrowed his skill before he finished saying hello. Guest skill detected. Closing hands. The skill did not regrow the worker's arm. It closed torn blood vessels and slowed the bleeding. I used it on him, then on Sarah, then on 2 people with cuts from falling glass. Every use added to the inn's final reward.
Emergency care recorded. Life-threatening bleeding stopped. Guests protected during disaster.
Then, the system combined the entire rescue into one reward.
Public threat defeated inside active inn.
All checked-in guests survived. Crime exposed with witnesses. Total Hearth points gained, 250. Popularity increased, 7 to 63. Safe house requirement completed. I nearly fell over. Sarah caught my arm. Blood loss? She asked. Points. That is becoming a strange answer. I spent 50 points on emergency medical supplies. Bandages and clean water appeared beside Mara. I spent 80 on a stable roof and dry recovery room. I spent 40 on food. I spent 30 on a stronger front wall. I saved the last 50. The repairs gave us a dry room, clean bandages, and enough light to keep people alive. We worked until dawn. The worker lived. His name was Pell. Bram sat beside him for most of the night, because Pell had been helping with the stable wall when the coach attacked. Mara fed everyone who could eat. Lyra wrote down every recovered item. Sarah set a watch on the road. No one celebrated. At sunrise, I sat on the broken front step. Sarah came over with a bowl of water and a clean cloth. Hold still, she said. I am very good at that. You moved through an entire falling building. I am good at holding still after. She wiped dried black blood from my cheek. Her fingers were careful around the cut near my eye. The rain had stopped. Early light caught in her silver hair. Her face stayed close to mine. For a moment, I forgot the broken wall behind us. She looked at my mouth, then back at my eyes. Not tonight, she said. I did not ask. I know. Her thumb wiped the last dark mark from my skin. I am telling both of us. I nodded. She sat beside me. We watched the road together. I named the little mimic Model. 3 days later, Bramblecross came to the inn. Families came for the bags and keepsakes found inside the grinning coach. Merchants came because the road was safe again. Workers came because a magical inn that repaired its own walls paid better than a normal ruin. The red-capped merchant returned with 2 wagons. I said I would book again, he told me. You did. Do I still get the stable price? The stable has a roof now. He frowned and paid half a copper extra. Mara took over the kitchen.
Rowan may cook, only while borrowing a real cook's skill.
I accepted this because it was accurate. Bram claimed the workshop. Sarah guarded the road. Lyra turned the pantry into a mailroom and crossed out the word pantry on the door. Model slept in a warm box under Bram's bench. It stole spoons, socks, keys, and one of Peck's official stamps. It returned the stamp. After Peck threatened to classify it as furniture, Auditor Peck arrived on the 4th morning with 20 officials, 2 wagons of recovered property, and a brass plaque. He climbed onto the new bar so the crowd could see him. Parcel 404 is now a legal safe house, he announced.
The Crooked Hearth. Open Road Inn.
The crowd cheered. My system filled my vision.
Major milestone complete.
Safe house unlocked. Guest skill slots increased, 1 to 3. Quick switch upgraded, triple equip. Rowan may equip 3 checked-in guest skills at the same time. New ability unlocked, Keeper Key. Bind 1 house skill to a portable key. I chose Momentum Hall. A dark brass key appeared in my palm. A silver spear was carved along its side.
Keeper Key. Momentum.
Outside the inn, Rowan may redirect the force of 1 running person or small beast. Uses, 3. Recharge, 1 night inside the Crooked Hearth. I showed it to Sarah. The inn wants to put a weaker copy of your skill in this key, I said. May I use it? She closed my fingers around the metal. Yes. The key warmed. For the first time, part of my inn could travel with me. Peck explained that Oren's money and wagons had been seized. The families of the dead were paid first. Pell and the other wounded workers were paid next. My reward was a mountain of wood, stone, nails, blankets, food, and 3 new guest beds. By sunset, the front wall stood straight. The common room had 10 tables. The stable held 12 wagons. 3 rooms waited upstairs. Our sign finally had all its letters.
The Crooked Hearth.
Lyra added another board below it.
No eating the guests.
Bram added a smaller line.
This includes the building.
The next morning, every table was full. A courier slime waited beside the bar. 2 goblin teachers argued about singing stones. A woman with antlers wanted a room with no iron nails. 3 guards asked Sarah about training. Mara shouted because I had cut the bread unevenly. My popularity climbed from 63 to 71. More guests meant more skills. Heat-proof hands, perfect balance, animal speech, fast cleaning. With triple equip, I used 3 at once. I carried a boiling pot without gloves, balanced 12 plates along both arms, and ordered a goat to stop eating Lyra's mail. The goat said no. Animal speech had made the problem clearer, not easier. A knock sounded at the front door. I opened it. A young green dragon stood on the road. She wore round spectacles and carried 6 suitcases. "Good morning," she said. "I require a room for 3 nights. I am allergic to knights, silver, lavender, heroic speeches, and pillows filled with goose feathers." Auditor Peck, who was standing behind me, slowly turned his head. The dragon saw him. "Are those feathers certified?" Peck hissed. I held up both hands. One problem at a time. A need glimpse appeared over the dragon. Need, allergy-safe room.
Guest skill detected. Dragonfire.
My smile widened. The inn had become popular. More important, more guests kept bringing me better skills. I stepped aside and opened the door wider. "Welcome to the Crooked Hearth."